And her fun fact is part of her story and part of why she is such a badass. One thing that she's done recently is just casually traipsed across Greenland's ice caps. So I'll let our dear friend Priya Bajaj come on stage and share her story for the rest of you. Please welcome Priya.
Hi everyone. So today I'm going to be taking you on a journey to summit Mount Everest. But before that, I'm going to give you a little bit of background. My family was very, very unusual for an Indian family. We would spend a lot of our holidays skiing, kayaking, hiking somewhere or the other. And that was very, very normal for me. My summer vacations would be spent, going on a mountaineering course somewhere, or skiing across Greenland, which I did with my father when I was just 17. My father, to give you all a little bit more context, used to do all of these very extreme adventures. So he would ski to the North Pole and South Pole casually. So I had grown up, hearing a lot about it. So it was always something that I wanted to do. And when I was 17, he got invited to go on this cross-country skiing expedition. And I was like, hey Dad, can I go along? And he was like, yeah, sure. Much to my surprise. And we ended up doing this, and it was such an incredible experience. It was 21 days skiing across the Greenland ice cap, a journey of 550 kilometers. And through that time, I was the youngest on the team. I was 17, the next oldest person was my dad. And, there were 5 of us, okay, all from different countries. And the coolest thing that I realized, when we were out there spending this time in sub-zero temperatures, was the fact that it doesn't really matter when you're outdoors, how old you are, or where you're from, or what language you speak even. At the end of the day, when you're out there doing something like this together, the bonds you form are absolutely incredible. And so other than the challenge of actually physically and mentally challenging yourself to your limit, it's the fact that you form such strong bonds with your teams that really, really got me into the outdoors. So the adventures continued. My high school graduation gift was a climb to Mount Elbrus, which is the highest mountain in Europe. And then after that, I went off to, for my undergrad. And while I was there, Dad came and visited me. And we started talking about all of the adventures that we had done together. And we seriously started to talk about climbing Mount Everest. The thing is, when you're in this field of adventure in the outdoors, Everest is always at the back of your mind, right? Every book that I had read growing up and every movie that I had watched had some mention of it. And it was always something that both of us wanted to do. So after I graduated, I decided to come back to India and spend some time, seriously training for this expedition. We spent 2 years eating, sleeping, breathing Mount Everest, doing 4 hours of cardio every day, going out for long hikes on the weekends and 4 practice expeditions. It was very, very intense. And after 2 years, when we finally were at the base camp of Mount Everest, it was one of the most incredible things in the world. We climbed from the north side, which is the China or Tibet side. And when you're there, you can actually see Mount Everest right in front of you. And a lot of people talk about conquering mountains or conquering Mother Nature. Let me tell you, when you are at base camp and you look at this big, beautiful mountain in front of you, you realize that there's absolutely no such thing as conquering a mountain. I mean, as humans, we feel so small and tiny and insignificant compared to the mountain that it's just, we feel grateful and fortunate to have the opportunity to even go there, if anything at all. And so we spent 2 weeks at base camp. A climb to Mount Everest can take anything from 6 to 8 weeks, and the reason why it takes so long is because you have to spend a lot of time acclimatizing, which basically means letting your body get used to the low concentration of oxygen as you go further and further up the mountain. And so we did our acclimatization round. That took about 3 weeks. And then we were waiting at base camp for a clear weather window until we could finally go and do our summit attempt. And, everything was going textbook style. So we did our acclimatization, everything was fine, Dad and I were climbing strong, everything was good. The weather report comes in, they're like, okay, you can go do your summit attempt. And so we started climbing, right? And the summit attempt, again, now takes about 5-6 days to get up to that final camp, right? So you're climbing up from base camp to interim camp to advanced base camp, then you climb up to Camp 1, Camp 2. Camp 2 is at 7,800 meters. I'm sorry, I don't know how to do that in feet, but all my international people, you know what I mean. And then finally, right, so you leave Camp 2 at 8 a.m. in the morning, you reach Camp 3. This is summit camp, 8,300 meters. You reach about 2 p.m. in the afternoon. It is really cold, like minus 40 degrees Celsius. Again, sorry, Americans. I think the scales converge at that point. It is very, very cold. And you are very, very high up. Absolutely incredible views, but it is scary, it is difficult. Your body is, it's called the death zone, above 8,000 meters, right? It doesn't have a very great name. It's the death zone now. But yeah, so your body is slowly stopping to function, right? You don't feel like eating anything, you can barely sleep, you can barely, forget then actually climbing further up. And anyway, so we're at 8,300 meters, you rest there for 6 hours, and then you leave for the summit attempt at 8 p.m. at night. And you're climbing in the dark, right? And you have this little headlight, and all you can see is the path ahead of you. You're climbing in the dark because conditions on the mountain are more stable at night, and you want to be sort of off the higher parts of the mountain by midday the next day. This is going to be a 20-hour climb. You're going to be on your feet for about 20 hours. And but Dad and I, we were climbing strong. We were excited. I mean, we had spent so much time. It kind of felt like this is something that I had been preparing for my whole life. And we were so excited, right? And the climb flew by. We climbed past 3 of the most difficult parts on the mountain, right? On the summit attempt, it's the first step, the second step, and the third step. Again, when you're climbing a really fuzzy brain, so you can't have more creative names than that. But so we climbed past those 3 things, and everything was going so great. We were about half an hour away from the summit. We could almost feel it. And all of a sudden, Dad turns around to me, right, and says, "Diya, I can't breathe." And my heart literally stopped. I was like, "What do you mean?" What had happened was we were using supplemental oxygen, right? And the pipe supplying oxygen to his mask had frozen over. And at this point, we had a very difficult decision to make. We both had stopped, obviously, right? But you can't stop for too long. Stopping means that your body stops generating heat. And the minute you stop generating heat, you get cold very fast. So you can either get hypothermia or frostbite. Stopping also means, in these very narrow paths, that you're not only blocking or you're not only putting yourself at risk, but you're putting everyone else who's behind you at risk as well. And so I had 2 options at this point. I could either keep climbing forward or turn around, but I couldn't wait there with Dad, right? Both of us couldn't stop there on that path. And for Dad, it was a no-brainer. He was like, "Diya, you climb ahead." This was a very difficult moment for me because, for most of my life, climbing with Dad, he was always expedition leader. But as we started climbing together more and more, and as I grew older and more experienced, we were now partners. And to leave my partner behind and keep climbing forward was something that I really did not want to do. But we didn't have much time to discuss this. And so with a very heavy heart, I kept moving forward. When I finally reached the summit of Mount Everest, it was 4:15 a.m. in the morning, and it was still very dark outside. I couldn't really see anything, and I was sitting, right below the summit, and it didn't even hit me that I had reached. I was just so nervous and stressed out about, Dad. And then the most magical thing happened. Just as the sun started to rise at the summit of Mount Everest, I see Dad. We've been wearing matching orange helmets, so I could see his orange helmet, walking towards me, and we both hugged at the summit of Mount Everest, and we both cried. It was a very emotional, exciting, beautiful moment. And then we went and we unfurled our Indian national flag at the summit of Mount Everest as India's first father-daughter team. This whole first father-daughter team thing isn't for the records, right? We don't climb for the records, we climb for the love of climbing. But the reason why climbing as India's first father-daughter team was important to both of us is because I've always known that what I have in my family is very unusual. Right? My parents have always supported me and encouraged me to follow my dreams regardless of my gender. Unfortunately, that isn't the case in many Indian families. And so climbing, as India's first father-daughter team, we wanted to show families all over India and all over the world that, like, hey look, us daughters, we can do so much, but we can definitely do a whole lot more if our families are there supporting us and being there as pillars of strength for us. And so, that just made that entire moment all the more special. Well, the adventures have continued. Dad and I are now on a quest to climb the 7 summits, which is the highest mountain in every continent. And we're only left with one, Denali, which is very conveniently placed in North America. So hopefully we'll be attempting that next summer. And with that, I just want to say thank you all for listening to my story. And I wish you all health, happiness, and success much, much higher than Mount Everest.
Thank you for sharing that story, Dia. A proud Indian in me could actually hear the Indian national anthem in my ears. We want to thank all our speakers for being so brave, honest, and open to us.